If we merge some light year in a titanic quaking collision, perhaps we both see something new.
I wonder, like, what you're talking about, some of that struggle that you have between the pietistic and the prophetic, and you felt more attracted to the prophetic. What I'm curious, like, how the pietistic side, like, what is that exactly that you weren't drawn to? Is that more of like the typical systematic theologian ideas type person who's not necessarily connected to real life hurts, or
That is a theological bias.
Mhm.
And in a real sense, I resented it.
Mhm.
I was offended by it because I kept asking myself, man, when I was moving away from the Southern Baptist notions of looking at stuff, I was reading Reinhold Niebuhr, and I was thinking, wait a minute. I moved from Reinhold Niebuhr to James Cone, and James Cone was more. Reinhold Niebuhr was more relevant to me than Paul Tillich.
Mhm.
Certainly more relevant to me than Charles Hodge. And James Cone was more relevant to me than Niebuhr. And it was the fact that Niebuhr and Cone were wrestling with the ethics of faith, the ethics of our relationship with God, that love of God and love of neighbor as being part of the same construct and not sacred versus secular or social versus pietistic. You know, they're all one and the same. And so I could not look at theology with the pietistic kinds of emphasis that one might traditionally think of in systematic theology. Okay, yeah, let's talk about salvation. Let's talk about the doctrine of sin. Let's talk about all these doctrines. But when you're dealing with the American form of apartheid that's been sacralized by theologians, and that has been blessed by everybody or ignored by the folks who are supposed to be the paragons of ministry, whether they're black or white, whether you're talking about Joseph H. Jackson in the National Baptist tradition, or you're talking about Billy Graham in the white tradition, you're talking about leading religious figures who want to talk about Jesus and salvation and God, but do not want to talk about the ills of life that were the things that are defining hurt and pain and struggle for so much of the world. And so that pietistic focus just didn't appeal to me. I went to law school because I wanted to make a difference in the world. I didn't want to spend my time thinking about jurisprudence, although I do. I wanted to spend my time thinking about ways to right wrongs, to do justice, to restructure dysfunctional systems, or to dismantle systems of oppression. And one of the systems of oppression I've come to understand was this is the religious system of oppression that basically sees religion as a way of evading responsibility for
Mhm.
social ills, or disarming people who are faith from the responsibility of being co-laborers with God in the work of justice and grace and mercy in the world.